From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 2205, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, February 5th, 2020. We begin with the earthquake that rattled Turkey Friday, January 24th. Local hams played an important role.
Buildings collapsed, people ran for cover, and rescue efforts got underway following the earthquake, even as aftershocks began to strike in eastern Turkey. Although no foreign assistance was immediately called in to aid in the disaster, hams made sure communications was not hampered, according to Aziz Sasa TA1E, who was involved in a telecommunications service group solution partner in the National Emergency Response Plan. Aziz told Newsline in an email that amateurs conducted technical communications in the affected area and supported the Ministry of Health. They installed a repeater on one of the mountaintops and got it operational. Aziz noted that there was no need at the time for any immediate deployment from Region 1 of the International Amateur Radio Union. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF.
No smoker solder was involved in a project two of the hams undertook on board the International Space Station, except, of course, they weren't exactly on board at the time.
So you think you face challenges on a crowded bench where it's hard to work on projects in an organized manner? Consider the task that recently faced Andrew Morgan, KI5AAA, and Luca Parmitano, KF5KDP. They had all the room in the world, well, beyond the world actually, because they were spacewalking as they worked. These two astronauts were partners on Saturday, January 25th, as they plugged a leak in a coolant line of the cosmic ray detector outside the International Space Station. This wasn't your typical homebrew project. The Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer is a $2 billion device. Of course, Andrew and Luca aren't your typical hams. Their QTH for now is the International Space Station, where they've also been engaging in QSOs back home on Earth as part of amateur radio on the International Space Station. The spectrometer has a job to do too out there in space. Its mission is to find antimatter and dark matter. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Mike Askins, KE5CXP.
Finally this week, we want to let you know about an event that's very close to our hearts, and in this case, our radios.
Happy birthday, Bill Pasternak, WA6ITF. Bill created the original Amateur Radio Newsline as the Westlink Radio Network long before many of us were hams, although there are just as many who already had their license who may remember listening to his reports. Bill became a silent key 5 years ago. He would have been 72 years old on Friday, February 7th. On that day and into the weekend, the Amateur Radio Newsline Amateur Radio Club is planning its first activation of WA6ITF, which has become our club call sign. This is an informal activation. Be listening for any and all of the Newsline staffers on the HF bands, as well as DMR, D-Star, Fusion, and Echolink. We'll be spotting on DX Summit to help you find us. What a great gift of communication for all of us. Remembering and celebrating Bill.
And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Jim Meechan, ZL2BHF, Mike Askins, KE5CXP, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.